This is Irene Woods. In this video we're going to graft on the machine with the purl sides together. I now have 10 stitches, 40 rows, and I have picked up the cast on edge from the waste yarn and put it on the same needles. And I've hung the yarn tail over the end stitch. You're always going to be short one on the cast on edge, or actually you're short half a stitch. That's just the nature of stockinette, and there's nothing really that you can do about it. So the yarn tail counts as a stitch. Okay, what I'm going to do is come up from behind in the back layer and pass the needle through from back to front. Go through the front stitch, and remember we're going to count that tail as a stitch. So go through the front stitch front to back, go to the second needle and come up back to front. Pull your yarn through. Go back to the back layer, pass the yarn from back to front through the stitch on the first needle, and then front to back on the second needle. Come back to the front layer, needle number 2, pass the needle from front to back, pull down on that to loosen things up a little bit, go to needle number 3 and come from back to front through that third stitch. Go back to the back layer, stitch number 2, pass the needle back to front, and then front to back. Okay, now take a look at what I've got here. This is going to be a problem if I continue to pull that yarn up. Can you see why? The needle needs to be on the other side of the loop. Back to the front layer, front to back through the stitch on needle 3, back to front through the stitch on needle 4. Okay, this is where we want to take that stitch, in case you're wondering what I'm looking for. I'm trying to go behind. This is the strand that I just pulled through previously, and it's coming through this stitch. I want to go back through that same stitch, front to back, back to front, and then through the stitch on the next needle, front to back. Let's try to keep that loop where it belongs this time. Okay, I don't know if you can see yet, but we're actually making a row of stitches. 1, 2, 3. And what's happening, we're making purl stitches on the back layer, and we're making knit stitches on the front layer. And this is the path that the yarn would take if you were knitting. So in effect, we're actually knitting a row with a yarn needle. Okay, back to front. Now when you get to the end, what do? Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish this stitch just like I normally would. And then I'm going to pass the yarn front to back through this. Now some people go ahead and make one more stitch through the edge back to front. You can if you want to. I don't find that it makes that much difference. Sometimes it works better to loosen the ravel cord, pick out a stitch or two, because, and it did. Let's see if I can get a close-up where you can see it. It's wrapped itself around the main color yarn. Can you see this? Right here and right here. That's a pretty common thing to have happen. So just pick out that little problem area, and then this will pull right out. This is where the seam is.